Hi, Priya.
Hey, hi, Chandrani.
So we were discussing so many things. So now let's just talk about something that is probably, as a manager, very close to your daily schedule. That is delegation. Managers and leaders often get feedback on delegating either too much or not delegating at all. Many of them, I'm sure they want to delegate, but somewhere they cannot because there's a lot of power or control issues that come in, or trust issues maybe towards the employees also. So how do you think they can strike the balance and go about it?
Good question, because it often comes up in my coaching conversations. And
Right.
I've also seen this happen personally at our organization level as well, right?
Right.
So, and you're right, either I've seen some leaders bring this to the coaching conversation where they said, you know what, I get feedback that I delegate too easily. And
Right.
I don't know why I'm getting that, because delegation is actually good. I'm empowering the other person to grow and develop, but then why should I not delegate? And then some of them struggle with delegation, right? So where they are unable to, they want to be that, they want to hold the control in some cases, and sometimes they have not been able to define the benchmarks within their team. So they often struggle with, quality issues that if, and too much of time consumption that happens when it goes back
Right.
and forth. So they tend to hold it on to themselves and just get work done. So these both are issues. And the first thing to understand here, Chandrani, is the fact that it's your lens to the word delegation itself. If you look at yourself as the expert and look at everything else that people bring as contributions to the project, or to the goal that you're trying to address, then you'll always keep finding something better to value add. And therefore it's difficult to delegate. And I've seen that happen, because every time there is something new, you keep building on to it immediately, that you're unable to delegate, because people there's no clarity of understanding that the leader is setting, because they are the expert in something. So it becomes very difficult to delegate. But sometimes when people have a very breadth perspective, they delegate very easily, right?
Right.
So it's breadth versus depth. That's the first this thing. So you have to kind of resolve as to how you look at yourself and your team, and some of the dynamics that is going to get you all to work and get work done together and achieve collective results. That's something you have
Right.
to look at the lenses. The second aspect, when it comes to people not being able to delegate, it comes from one, their own orientation of an expertise, the expert orientation that they bring. The second is, as managers or as leaders, they're not able to keep the monkey where it belongs. Meaning, the team members need to be able to step in, or need to do some things that for which they were hired for. But when that fine lines of keeping the monkey where it belongs, when that does not happen because of not setting the expectations clearly, bringing clarity on the commitments. Most of them just work on certain KPIs, but not defining commitments to say, hey, what should you be achieving? How should you be achieving it? And define, getting their why component. Why should they be achieving it? What are the X and Y? And what's the time frame? So having that clarity and setting some ground rules. This is the performance standards I require. And this, unless you meet these performance standards, we will not be able to move towards our goals collectively. So taking the time at the beginning of the year, or during the most important planning stages for yourself, when you come up with plans for the subsequent year, people need to define this. People just finish the year, they jump into just getting started with next year, but taking that cushioning time frame to define these dimensions, performance, clarity on goals, having clarity on performance metrics. How does it look when it really exceeds performance standards? How does it really look when they're not performing? So giving that level of clarity is going to be very important for delegation, and setting some aspects of what are some aspects that can be delegated, what are some things that I need to keep in control, and what is the cushioning or the flexibility that I am willing to adapt or adopt in my system. so that we're able to function as a team. At the same time, I don't think that one can ignore one's body. People have certain fears to delegation. They may not be able to set the standards or the guidelines to people. So there could be some things that could be preventing them at a physical and mental level. So starting to take care of one's body, I mean, especially building more flexibility and balance at a body level can actually bring a deep connection to the way they're able to delegate.
Right.
Delegation also requires a strength in voice. Because if you have, that is why we said for you to have clarity of the vision, clarity of the goal, setting the guidelines, you need to be able to have a strong voice.
Yeah.
And that can also be achieved when you take care of your body. So people who have this fear to delegate need to reflect on their orientation, number one, whether they have a breadth or a depth orientation. And secondly, they need to have the ability, the voice to give clarity, set expectations, set guidelines, norms for performing and non-performance within the team. And also have the ability to, to be able to take that that space and courage to say, hey, what are some of the things that are non-negotiable for me not to delegate at this point in time, and what are some things where I will accept flexibility and my mindset to say, how can I empower my next level? So doing it step by step will help them to slowly get into practicing delegation, especially for people who are afraid to delegate. And then, of course, I certainly feel this dimension of body, mind, and neuroscience playing a great role to getting out of your fear to delegate, right? There are always certain things that hold you back with the fear of saying, oh my God, will my team members misconstrue me providing the feedback, or misconstrue when I give this, I get them to do it. How do I not just be an empathetic leader, but also be able to keep people accountable along with my empathy? There are some leaders whom I have coached who come to the coaching table with the fact that, hey, I delegate too easily is a feedback I get. And I'm wondering, why is that a problem? Because everybody should be empowered.
Right.
And that is when, just going back to a simple situational leadership model to look at how people, really are functioning in their team and at what stage that they are in. Is delegation really something that is appropriate for a certain commitment, especially if I'm delegating it to the right person? So for the manager to kind of get into some very basic understanding of the individual and their commitments, and then delegating rather than just saying, some people just have, if it comes to them, it will just be delegated to somebody, whoever is the first person coming in, it gets to that, right? So instead of that, just being like a like receive and let go kind of a thing, you need to understand who are the kinds of people in my team, what are their commitments, and what are the stages that they are in, if
Right.
they are indeed able to take on this responsibility that I'm delegating. So having that level of understanding and using some very basic models like a situational leadership model can really help people to get towards addressing this issue on delegating too fast. But most importantly, the fundamental aspect is, yes, as a team, you need to have people with diverse skills in the team. So if you're going to hire too many people who are in their early stages and not able to free you up and give you time, then your hiring strategies could also be an issue. So it is not just the act of delegation, which is a very managerial competency, but it is also about the quality of people that come into the organization, the right level of talent who come in. So if you're hiring too many of the same people, is that the issue for the system to not have that, people at various stages of performances working in a team? So that level of diversity also needs to come into the hiring strategy and the retention strategy.
So when you're talking about multiple other layers also, Priya, like how do you think good delegation employees and like motivates and influences employees?
Certainly, I think when you are delegating to the right people, you're actually empowering the system, recognizing the system of its capabilities, and also helping them to aspire more. So that way, when
Right.
you do the delegation rightly, you're having an empowered and engaged ecosystem. But when you're delegating too early, then you may not, you will be struggling because you would be thinking you're delegating, but whether the person is able to bring that level of competency. So there is a sense of mismatch in expectations that happens. So there is a lack of clarity and misalignment that happens in teams. So it could either, if done well, it can do great things, but if it's not done well, you need to pause and align so that you're able to maximize the team's collective strengths and therefore align it to outcomes together.
Right. I'm glad you said that, Priya, because there's a lot to think about in terms of the different aspects of delegation and how like they can empower both the parties in an organization. It's not just a simple giving somebody to do of every single day to achieve their KPIs. So it's very interesting.